Welcome to Organize Zen Now. My name is Janie Downey. Thank you so much for joining me here today. So, Organize Zen is being organized, but in a way that's peaceful and that works really well for you. So, not getting hung up on a lot of goal setting and list making, but really getting to the work that you want to do so that you can do your best work. And then that's the feeling of Zen that comes out of that. If this is helpful to you, please like, please share, and please subscribe. And on the help front, it's been interesting. I just started this channel about 3 weeks ago, and some of the feedback from folks of who is being helped by this and how has been interesting to me. So one friend passed some of my talks along to his son, who is trying to make some decisions about his career. And then I was just talking to a neighbor today, and he's mid-30s, and out of the blue, we weren't talking about Organized Zen. He said, boy, I just feel like there's things that I was taught as a child to not think about or not do. And now I'm in my mid-30s, and I'm thinking, why did I never do that? And so that's helpful to him. So I'm passing some of my thoughts along to him. And then I ran into another neighbor who's in her early 70s, and she has all these wonderful ideas around poetry and what she's trying to do with that. But it's more than she can take on, and so she needs some help. So I have thoughts about that as well. So however this might help you or to pass along, I hope that you will help spread the word. I feel like as a community, we can solve things that we can't always solve as individuals. Okay, so today I am going to talk to you about, I'm going to give you some tips on ways to get to the work that you want to do if you find you're hitting barriers. And I will say with that, that we all get off track in our own unique ways. So I'm going to offer you ideas here. I've got 2 more talks coming up on this. So this is just the beginning of this. So hopefully you'll find something here that works well for you. So I'm going to start off with the first one, which is if you feel like you're not getting to your best work, the work that's coming right from your heart, to look at your list and say, is there stuff on here that's just too big? And so let's say you say, oh, I've always wanted to learn a language, or I've always wanted to play the guitar. Having that on your list of stuff that you want to get done is big. So you got to think of a baby step. And I'm a big proponent of baby steps. And there's a couple of reasons. The biggest one is you get started, right? And sometimes you just got to get started and then you're on a path. And it helps with one baby step. And then the other big one is it's just not so overwhelming. So I want to learn a language, but what's one step? What's one thing I can do today? Or what's one thing that I can do this week? So look at your big list and say, I'm not getting to this because this is just way too big. It means you also have to be a little bit more patient with yourself, which is also a very Zen thing to say. I'm not instantly going to know another language. I'm going to learn it a little bit at a time. And we know that, I think, in our hearts, but sometimes we forget about it and we're not as kind to ourselves as we are to other people. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, this is a personal favorite. This is creative avoidance. So creative avoidance means doing lots of stuff that's not actually getting to the big stuff, but it's stuff that seems so important at the time. So I write historical fiction, and I can tell you that I can do research till the cows come home. And at some point, I have to cut that off, and I actually have to write. So it's creative avoidance for me because I feel very productive, and I love getting lots of data and facts about the 1800s. But it's avoidance because it's not getting to my big writing. Creative avoidance could also be, I can't write until I declutter this room, or even I have to clear this desk. And when you clear one thing, you got to clear another thing. But I know a lot of people that say that, like, oh, I just can't work if it's this. So that's creative avoidance. I think the most interesting one I've heard lately is I was out with a friend the other night, and she's a piano teacher, and she said, I have a friend who wants to play the guitar, but he said, I can't play the guitar until I can learn how to read music. And we were both like, no, you don't have to do that. Guitar is on charts, and you just need to learn that it's a C chord. You don't need to learn everything about music. So you may want to learn all about music in the long run, but to get started, to learn to play the guitar, you don't need to learn how to read music. So I think sometimes we set up a big obstacle, maybe just because it's easier to say, oh, I can't possibly do it. I don't have the education for that, or I don't have the time to do the big thing. But you have the time to get to do a smaller part. So creative avoidance, very fun one to say, just get started. Okay, number 3, focus. So there's a few components to this. If you can't focus on what you're doing for your work, it's very hard to get it done. And a couple of big things can mess with your focus. The first is the time of day that you're trying to do things. So if you have a big demanding job and you have family, you probably only have time maybe over lunch and maybe tucked in at the beginning of the day and maybe tucked in at the end of the day. If you're trying to get to especially creative work and you try to do something that's out of sync, it's very hard to get it done. So I was writing a musical and I was working with my stepson, who is a professional musician. So I'm up in the morning, he's out performing at night. And we decide that we're going to work on this together. I'm writing it and he's going to help with the music. So the first time we got ready to meet, I said, "Are you ready to start?" And he said, "Yeah, let's start." And he said, "Let's meet tomorrow morning." And I said, "Great. What time works for you?" And he said, "I don't know, 2?" So I'm a morning person. I'm a morning girl. Like, I'm very creative at, 6:30 and 7 in the morning, and I'm cooking until about 9 at night, and then I'm out of juice. Justin, professional musician, he's out late. His day doesn't really start till noon, and then he hits his creative juice also in the morning, but his mornings are very different than my mornings. We did work a little bit earlier, didn't work for us. We tried to work late, didn't work for us. So finding that sweet spot in your schedule to get to the work that you really want to do at a time that works well for you to do it is really important for your focus. Your focus can also be where you work. If you love quiet and you're in a noisy office or you're in a noisy, let's say I like quiet when I write. I can't write in a coffee house. I need to have quiet. And I can't expect to get stuff done if I'm in a place that doesn't work for me. Some people don't work well when it's quiet. And I know this, they've told me this. So they love a little bit of the buzz of a coffee house or hearing music running in the background. So trying to find a place that works really well for you is super helpful. And Stephen King has an interesting thing with this. Stephen King, scary stuff, but he has a great book called On Writing. And he said, you have to be brave enough to close your door and put a plaque on it that says, "I'm busy right now. Please don't disturb." And you got to kind of own that, and that's okay to say that, because you're making a space where you know that you can focus and you can get to your best work. The last piece in with focus is your health. So this has happened to me in talks with a lot of people, they'd say, I just lost someone in my family. I'm in deep grief and I'm trying to declutter. Like, not a great time. Or I've just come out of a major illness and now I realize that I really want to get stuff done, but I have no energy. And I say, not a great time for that. So if your health is not in a good spot, if your mind is not in a good spot, don't push yourself to focus. That's asking more than you would ask of a friend. You're asking too much of yourself than you would ask a friend. And that can involve a lot of things. Health, just in general, if you're not getting enough activity, if you're not eating well, if you don't get enough sleep and you're just depending on caffeine to get by, your focus is really going to be tough and it is going to be really, really hard to get to your best work. So 3 points within focus. All right. The next this is a funny one to me, but this happens all the time, is to look at your list and say, is this even stuff I really want to do? So it's on your list, right? So you've committed to it at some point and you think, yeah, I want to get that done. But now the list has gotten really big. So now maybe look at this and say, do I still really want to do this? Like, I don't know. This is important to me. So some of that is you pull from your gut. Is this high energy or a low energy thing for you? So it's on your list and you feel like, I don't like that. You know what? Then you got to reconsider that and say, is it something that you really want to get done? Or, oh my God, even just thinking about it gives me great energy. So then you know it should be on the list and you got to figure out a way to get it done. If another way to assess this, I think this is super helpful too. My daughter was just trying to make some decisions about work. And I said, well, where do you want to be in 3 years? So a project can work the same way as that. So you can think, in 3 years from now, is this getting me somewhere that I want to go? Or am I going to look back in 3 years on this moment and say, I don't even know why I was working that? Or Was that a turning point? Was this like the day I decided this is what's going to get me somewhere that I really want to go? So think ahead, think back to your current time, look at yourself and say, is that something I want to work on? And then the last one I put on here, but this is a tricky one to me, which is to look at something that you think is important on your list and you say, I'm not getting to it, to list out the pros and cons. And the thing that I think is tricky about a pros and cons list is you might say, this is something I really believe I want to do, and here's all these reasons why. Here's all these pros that work for it, but there's just one con. But sometimes the con, this is the tricky part to me, one con can wipe out a whole list of pros, or one pro can wipe out a whole list of cons. So writing it out, I think, helps, but you're still going to use your gut to say, if I have all these reasons I want to get it done, and the one con is that it totally drains my energy, it's going away. It needs to go off your list. Okay, here's my last 5th tip of the day. Is your life too complicated right now? So this is another favorite of mine because I tend to take on a lot of stuff. So if I'm not getting everything done, I got to look at my list and say, what can I simplify out of this? So to get ready to do this talk, I did a simplify list for me. And so this is really like simplify with a question mark. Like, is there something I can simplify? So if you asked me like at a party, what is it that you do? I'd say, I'm a writer. I write, right? Is that all I do? No, that is not all I do, because I am also doing historical tours in town, and I'm obviously working on Organize Zen, and I spend a lot of time with family and friends and going to the theater, and I'm doing an art class with my daughters, and I sing in a group, and I'm getting ready to go on a big camping trip, and I'm doing a long distance bike, so I have to do a lot of workout for that, and I'm running and I'm walking. And then when I put that all on a big, nice, big piece of paper, and I could have done this on a regular paper, but I decided to do this in the art book this week. I looked at that, and there's 2 new things that have come up for me where I saw a lot of great guitar last week, including Lyle Lovett, and I'm like, you know what? I got to learn to play the guitar better. So I'm like, I'm going to take guitar lessons. So I've done the simple little steps. I looked locally. I found an online class. I put it on my list. I think I'm going to learn to play the guitar. Now I look at it on my big old chart and I'm like, you know what? Maybe after this summer, when I finish up some of these big projects, it will be time for me to do guitar lessons. And the other thing that's been nudging at me is to do more songwriting. I used to do a lot of it and I haven't been doing it. And I put it right into here in one of these circles, but I just questioned it to say, these are the 2 new things I wanted to fit in here: guitar lessons and songwriting. And I am now going to be very zen and think, thank you, ideas. I am going to move you to a different time after I get done with the stuff I'm working on this summer. And I am not going to put those on the list right now. And I'm going to zen, stop thinking about them. Okay. So I hope that helps. So you're trying to stay on track. That's your activity. This takes some time. So set some time aside for yourself, quiet or noisy, whatever works for you, in a place that works really well for you. Don't clear off your desk maybe to do this. You don't want to do creative avoidance. Just sit down. Give yourself maybe even 15, 20 minutes because you know what you're working on. And think of ways to simplify your life a little bit. Okay, I hope that helps. If it does, please like, share, and subscribe. And please join me here again at Organize Zen Now. Bye.